Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Welcome in. How are we doing here on a Tuesday? I'm guessing we're better than we were yesterday when we got off the radio. That's just, I could be wrong, but that yesterday, I'm not as mad necessarily as I was yesterday, but I can feel my insides ready to explode just thinking about yesterday.
So you still are that mad is what that means.
But I've done so good keeping it out of my brain all day. Like, I've had so much stuff going on. I haven't really thought about that trade that happened yesterday. Now, again, it's just to clarify, the Sensatella trade, I got no problem with. Like, fine. I don't. You gave up prospects. Could they turn out to be something? Sure, probably. But I don't feel as bad about that one. The one that had me mad is the Dustin May deal. And so what do? You sit there and maybe not everybody does
Did you
this.
see where they were ranked in the Cardinals system now, finally?
4-10.
Yeah.
We had this last night on postgame show. Somebody tweeted at me when they saw it during postgame last night. By the way, if you missed postgame last night, yeah, you probably should go back and listen. Potawatomi Sportsbook postgame show. It was something else. 2 hours long. Tim and me going back and forth. Ton of calls. I apologize to those of you with a text and dugout YouTube comments. Like, it was overwhelming. We had so much going on. There was no way I could read everything, plus everything else we had going on. Played some Brandon Sprode, who was almost in tears at his locker last night. Matt Arnold talked after the second inning. We had that little miniature impromptu presser in the dining room at American Family Field. Played that. I had some Pat Murphy last night. So I'm sure you would probably enjoy it if you go back and listen to it. Anywhere you download your favorite podcast, or Best Brewers coverage works as well. Make sure to go check that out today. Tom Silverstein, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel Packers beat writer, joins us at 2:20. Looking forward to that. Another day of practice we can talk about, as well as what happened yesterday. Plus our green and gold update. We'll hear from Matt LaFleur coming up at 4 o'clock. And I want to see an unbiased observer's opinion on what happened yesterday. Aram Leighton, who is from Just Baseball Media, is coming on at 4:20. The last time he was on, he was hugely popular, especially on YouTube, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was pretty big on there. It was a lot of fun having him on. Just Baseball's an awesome podcast, and they do great breakdowns. He's awesome, too.
Yep. So we'll have him on again coming up at 4:20. So we're going to start talking about a little bit about baseball. And there'll be baseball throughout the show, obviously. Packers as well. Not sure we'll get to any Bucks, but definitely Packers and Brewers. So yesterday, everybody was kind of trying to investigate what the heck happened with that Skubal deal. Everybody's trying to piecemeal this together. Brian Cashman of the Yankees, we read quotes from that last night, pretty much said at one point they just went silent and he wasn't getting anything from them at that point. The Athletic wrote a big piece last night talking about the Skubal deal. Now, nowhere in there did they say what the Brewers offered or what the deal was or where things went sideways. They said they talked to Tampa Bay. But in the piece where they said they talked to Tampa Bay, they said that, according to sources, the Tigers had their eyes on the Dodgers from the start, essentially. That's where they wanted to make the deal before this all even started. And then there's the Cubs, who apparently were involved as well, but the Cubs didn't want to pay apparently the crazy high asking price that they were pretty much throwing out there. Then we have Adam McKelvey, who put out today from his sources that the Brewers essentially offered up at least 2 top 100 prospects in this deal. The only which apparently that he's convinced is correct, that we know for certain, is Luis Pena. And then another potential top 100 pick, Adam Shefsky, whoever. So 3 people total, 2 of which were top 100 prospects. The one thing that we do know is that the Detroit Tigers wanted a controllable pitcher, which they get in River Ryan, who, again, everybody has their thoughts on whether or not, he is worth being deemed that high of a quality dude as far as being able to stay healthy. He's older. Is he 27? So you have all of that. And that's apparently who they wanted from the jump. I simply want to know this. Because you've read a lot of stuff. You've heard from different people. Matt Arnold pretty much said they made a really good offer, he thought. Pat Murphy said they were involved, and he thought that they made a good offer. You're hearing how the Skubal trade went down. And again, they got out on Saturday. They made this deal Saturday. They didn't even wait to the deadline. Do you think the Brewers or anyone else really had a chance at getting Skubal more so than the Dodgers? Do you think anybody really had a legitimate chance of even doing this? Or was this whole thing kind of planned out in advance, or whatever the conspiracy theories you may have are on this? Nicolay Law Talk and text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250 on the socials at WI Sports Radio 2, Instagram Live, YouTube. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube at WI Sports Radio. Fan Milwaukee Facebook page, X at WI Sports Radio. Come hang out. We're live streaming this bad boy. Before we get to Tom Silverstein, we switch gears to the Packers coming up about 12 or 13 minutes. I really am more and more of the belief that I think Skubal just wanted to go to the Dodgers, and I think they just acquiesced. Man, I think that's all it was. I think at some point they had the conversation of, all right, man, like, you know, we're going to move you. Any requests, anything you got? And I think that he probably said, hey, man, I'll go Dodgers. I want to play with the Dodgers going forward. I want to sign with the Dodgers going forward. And so that's where I'd like to go. Kind of like Damian Lillard, I want to go to Miami. Or Giannis, I want to go to Miami, right? These guys all making their requests of where they want to go. And sometimes GMs acquiesce and send the player where they want to go, like Giannis. Other times, GMs don't acquiesce, like Lillard in Portland, and instead he sends him to Milwaukee. So it all depends on who is running the front office and how important that dude is long-term for that organization. How important is Skubal long-term to the Detroit Tigers organization? I don't know. I have no idea. But to go into that deal and make that deal, and again, if you're looking at the prospect list prior to that Dodgers trade, Luis Pena was ranked, 10 spots higher than that outfielder they got, Zaire? Hope. Like 10 spots higher. So there's no way. And if the other said person was, say, Logan Henderson, he's got a lower ERA than Tarek Skubal does right now. And you're going with a guy off Tommy John at 27? Like, I don't, like, all of this, to me, is just like shaking your head and going, yeah, okay. And when Tim and I were talking about it last night, I told Tim, I said, hey, man, if there was any hanky-panky or side stuff going on, it's eventually going to come out if this doesn't work, right? So if these guys don't work in Detroit, eventually somebody in that front office that was mad that that deal got done and they didn't do a different deal, eventually will spill the beans to somebody in the media, to a player, a former player, whatever, and eventually it's going to get leaked out really what were the deals were and why they ended up making that deal with the Dodgers. Eventually. Now, Scott Harris, who's the president of baseball operations for the Detroit Tigers, he is there now. We played some of Scott Harris last night. I don't really think I like Scott Harris. I don't think I could hang out with Scott Harris, to be honest with you. I don't think I could. Nothing against Scott Harris other than he just comes off the wrong way to me. Like, I don't think I could roll with Scott Harris. I don't.
I feel like, in my opinion, a lot of these front office guys, kind of feel like that. Like, Matt Arnold doesn't. I think Matt Arnold's a guy that, we've hung out with him before. Yes. So I think that maybe makes a difference. Maybe you do need to just hang out with some of them. But I think a lot of them, just the way that, they do business, and you know that it is such a cutthroat business that you just assume they're going to be cutthroat people, too. And
he just came across as so cocky and arrogant. Exactly. I was like, dude, what are we doing? Your team is so bad, you had to trade the best pitcher in baseball. What do you have to be cocky and arrogant about? And he's acting like, there was audible pains coming from the teams when I was saying that they needed to add more. I could hear it. Man. I just, And to his point of when you have a special player like Skubal, you don't need to wait to put the screws on teams to get the highest bid to the deadline. That's what happened with Casey Mize, right? That's what Detroit did. They said, okay, you're busting our chops for not holding this to the end. Well, we're going to hold this to end on Casey Mize before we trade him. That was his response. Everybody that went after him about Skubal waited to the very end, got as much as he could get out of San Diego, and cut that deal. Now, again, their farm system isn't the greatest necessarily in the whole wide world. So they're, one of their top prospects still isn't. If you look at the list of I think it was Kylie McDaniel on ESPN. Again, not a big fan of his, but Kylie McDaniel on ESPN, their top prospect that the Padres gave up was rated below Ragsdale and was rated below Frias, Alexander Frias.
That's kind of insane.
But see, that's the thing. Everybody's like, oh, Sparky, you're overreacting. I get it. In our system, it's 11-13. In St. Louis, it's 4-10. In the Padres, it could have been 1-2. It all depends on the farm system you're talking about. And instead of just blowing it off and who cares? It's 11-13. No. It's 11-13. And like I said before, the best farm system in baseball. You want to talk about the Dodgers? You go ahead, talk about the Dodgers. But in the history of this organization, I think this is the best farm system we've ever had at one time. Ever. Which means the depth should be able to overcome, should be able to replace the guys that you lose, and so forth. Which is true, and I'm sure they will. The issue that I have and had and still do have is you did it in the division. That and you did it to the Cardinals. I don't think the Pirates, definitely have the Brewers' number. No question about that. I don't think I even would have been as mad if it was the Pirates. I mean, the only team that would have made me more mad than the Cardinals would have been if they would have given them to the Cubs. Those two guys. Then I may have just called in sick today and just been home being sick.
Oh, that would have been such a fun show.
Trial North Side, after hearing how the Skubal trade went down, do you think the Brewers or anyone else really had a chance of getting them?
No.
No, I don't think so either.
I think Skubal, and I heard his comments too, where he's trying to say any team could have traded for him. I don't believe that's the case. I believe he's tongue in cheek on that. I believe he asked to be traded to the Dodgers, and they respect his wishes.
Yep, I think so too.
I just got to say this about – I want to say something about the Brewers, and I want to say something about the Dodgers. I'll start with the Dodgers first. These people are going around saying, why are people mad at the Dodgers? I don't think people really understand the sweetheart deal the Dodgers have. It's not just, they got this much money. They are pretty much cheating the system. When the Dodgers got sold, they were in a bankruptcy.
Yep.
According to their bankruptcy, until 2039 – they only have to pay $150 million of the luxury, to baseball
luxury tax
as far as the owners.
Yeah.
This team makes anywhere from $650 to $835 million per year. With any other regular team would be playing 48% of that to the league, but because they got this sweetheart deal from the bankruptcy of their sale that they kind of put in there before it went through, they only have to pay $150 million. So we're talking about anywhere from $300 to $400 million extra money that they're getting freely. And then on top of that, off of that money, they're not even paying these guys straight up. They have deferred money where guys are getting money 10 and 20, 15 years from farm. So they can put $50 million in an escrow account. It can draw interest over 15 years, and they can pretty much pay a guy maybe, $100 million contract or $150 million contract. What I'm saying is that they're cheating the system. So they're not people saying, why are you making that? No, they got a sweetheart deal that no other team in the Major League Baseball has.
Correct.
That's why I have a problem with them.
You're 100% right on everything you said. Real quickly here. So the Dodgers owe $1.112 billion in deferred money. The next closest team in deferred money are the Mets at $181 million. That's not even remotely close to the first place team, right? The Brewers owe $41 million. The Cubs, $90 million, if we're comparing the two best teams. Now, going back to what you said about the deferred money, this guy labels himself as Penn State dad or whatever else. He went through all of this and put it down together. So deferred contracts, a team gets to pay a player $70 million a year for 10 years and defers $68 million per year until year 11, when then they start paying it. A team shows that they have the full $70 million per year in an account, like you were talking, the escrow account, to fulfill the deferred contracts they have in place. Then they get to invest that money into a fund that conservatively probably pays them 5 to 10% annually.
Exactly.
Then they get to tell Major League Baseball the time value of money is less 10 to 20 years from now than it is today. So that $68 million is deferred and actually becomes between $46 and $48 million when you start talking about stacking up payroll as far as how much luxury tax money you have to pay. So they're actually saving like $25 million in luxury taxes by deferring the money to have to pay later. So while they're earning 5 to 10% returns on their money, they also get to decrease luxury tax liabilities. That's the scheme MLB allows to happen. That is why Major League Baseball must shut down until the CBA and rules are changed. # Dodgers is the post.
Yeah. And that's why I'm pissed off at the Dodgers. It's not because they got all this money. It's the way that they're going about it. It's like a scheme, a tax scheme or something. But let me get to the Brewers really quick.
But a legal one. MLB allows it, so just nobody else does it.
Yeah, true. The thing I'm mad about the Brewers front office, Sparky, it's not about not getting Scoop. It never was about not getting Scoop. They're not forward-thinking enough. For instance, when you got prospects, well, I shouldn't even say when you got players like Paul Skeens and different other younger players that still have controllable contracts where the team that they're playing for is not going to re-sign these guys, why not be forward-thinking and get a group of prospects because you got the number one system in the league and get a guy like that who has 2, maybe 3 years left and add them to your players already. That's what I'm upset with the Brewers about because you're holding on to all these prospects, but some of them play the same positions,
right?
And you're just going to keep doing it. Why not cash in when you can and get a Paul Skeens out the blue? They're always saying no one's on the trading deadline, no one's on the trading block. If you offer a good enough package, almost everyone in the league is on the trade block.
And that's how they got Christian Yelich. But the problem the difference there is the Marlins were having a fire sale. Stanton was already gone, and they were tearing that team down with guys, under control. And Stern swept in and took a young, controllable guy in Christian Yelich. Trell, thanks for the call. Got to get to a quick timeout. Come back on the other side. Tom Silverstein, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel Packers beat writer, will join us. He'll tell us all about what's going on up at Packers training camp. Pads again today. Hey, looking for a college where you can excel in the classroom and on the field? At Bryant Stratton College's Wauwatosa campus, you can compete in NJC AA Division II athletics with more than 20 men's and women's teams to choose from. Keep playing the sport you love while earning your associate degree in business, healthcare, criminal justice, or digital marketing. Athletic scholarships are available for those who qualify. Again, it's not a D3 school, so they have scholarship money. Again, athletic scholarships are available for those who qualify. Visit BryantStratton.edu and discover how Bryant & Stratton College is built different for you. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. I seriously have a question. It's a parenting question for those of you that are older. I seriously want to know this. Now, I myself am old, so I give myself the out. For being an old guy that forgets everything, Charlie constantly has to tell me where everything is that I put down, right?
Yep.
I need a soda. So I go out and get a soda, I come back, and I still have a half full soda that I never even drank, and it's still sitting there. Or Charlie's like, dude, you got like 3 half-drank sodas over here in the refrigerator. You should probably like finish a couple of these off over here, right? Constantly. Charlie, where's my keys? Charlie, have you seen my sunglasses? Charlie, where did I put my jelly bellies that I had?
And most of the time, I don't even know. I don't know why he would ask me. Like, it was just something that he lost on his own.
Right. Pretty much my work wife. Everything goes on him to help me get through my day. And so I don't do something horrible. So, okay, I'm old though. So okay, fine. I do not understand how a young person can have the same issues. I have a 19-year-old child that decided that they were going to leave a can of soda in the freezer. And as you could imagine, it exploded, and I'm getting pictures from home. You've got to be joking me. It wasn't even a bottle. It was a can of soda. Like, is this a thing with all teenagers? Like, I mean, kids going to college, 4-year school, all that. Hey, everything's good. But some of the stuff the child does, it's like, oh my goodness, how did you get through a full year of college already and survive without something going horribly wrong?
These are just learning moments, Sparky.
Learning moments.
Yeah, exactly.
I should take a picture of that boy's room and put that out on social media. Just stacks of cans and dishes and all of this stuff.
Can you imagine what his dorm room looked like?
Now, see, that's the thing. That's a whole nother story. That whole nother story. We won't even get into that story. I could do an hour on that, on his college freshman year, but we won't get into that. Instead, let's go to somebody happy, brightful, and positive, and a heck of a youth baseball coach. I mean, this dude can coach circles around anybody you got to put in front of him. He is Packers beat writer Tom Silverstein joins us now here on the Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. What's going on, Tom?
Did Leighton just hit you? Because you just lied like nobody's business about my ability to coach.
No, man, Leighton did. I saw you. I've seen you coach multiple times.
I know, and they were all losses, weren't they?
I don't remember how it all turned out, but I've been there. I've witnessed it. It's good stuff. I enjoy watching you coach. Okay, so let's talk about this Packers team. First and foremost, I guess the Zach Tom name change seems to be a big deal one way or the other. And to a degree, I think it's kind of overblown to a certain degree. The backstory on it seems to make a lot of sense to me. I think it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, it's definitely better than, going to Chad Ochocinco or something like that, I mean, it has some meaning, and I can understand why he did it. And good for him.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you on that. Let's talk about the right guard situation for the Green Bay Packers. I think that might have a little bit of a spotlight, at least from fans of Anthony Belton. I think people expect to be the right guard and so forth. Is it that simple? Is it his job and it's going to be hard to wrestle away from him?
No, it's not. And we saw him a little bit at right tackle today.
Oh, back to that.
For the first time.
Didn't we do this last year? Wasn't he at right tackle in training camp all of last year?
It was just for a series or two. And, they've got to prepare guys. I mean, if someone gets hurt, they've got to be able to play multiple positions. So it wasn't like he was there for the whole day. It was just for a couple of series. I think they also have to take a long look at Jager Burton. He was out there today playing in team drills, and they stuck him at right guard. And I think they've got to play through that too and see where he could possibly help them. So, Belton has a ton of talent, and in my opinion, he's not really a guard, but he did okay enough last year, and he's got a lot of potential. But maybe he's not a guard. Maybe he's going to have to be a swing tackle. I don't know.
What about Jordan Morgan? He gets his run in left tackle. Now, again, we saw this last year too, as well in camp and in preseason a little bit. And he looked okay at left tackle. Today, I saw amongst everybody tweeting that he did well against Van Ness in one-on-one drills. What do you make of him at left tackle?
Well, he's going to be a good pass blocker. That's his forte. That's what he does. He was good at it in college. That's why the Packers drafted him. And I think it's about becoming, a complete player and also being able to deal with some of the high-end rushers in the league, guys with the really long arms, guys, who are the toughest, the Myles Garretts of the world that sometimes you're going to have to block one-on-one. But I don't think he's the biggest worry. He's the biggest story, but I don't know if he's the biggest concern.
Tom Silverstein, Packers beat writer for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Follow him on X at Tom Silverstein. The other story that people have been talking about is all of these cornerback blitzes that Mr. Gannon is throwing at the Packers offense so far in camp. Do we think this is going to be a strategy of the Packers defense, or is this something LaFleur wants to work on for his offense? Which do you take away from it?
I think it's an element that they will employ. I think that's something, he is Gannon has history of using safeties, often three safeties, and they're kind of interchangeable. And there's ways, he expects his safeties to be able to cover. And so there's ways you can bring guys like that. I mean, you have to be creative, I think, in situations, but I don't know that means he's going to, send corners 10 times a game or anything like that. But it could, if it's successful, it could become a staple. He's talking tomorrow to us, so I am kind of curious to hear what he says, is whether maybe they're just working on that right now as part of their installation of the defense, or maybe it will be a staple.
The other thing, too, we want to watch here is Valentine, obviously, with the hamstring thing. So you're starting to see Cisse a little bit more. LaFleur, very complimentary of the dude himself, the human being himself, outside of just being a football player. What have you seen from the actual football player? My thought was coming out of the draft, he is super athletic. There's no questioning the athleticism. It's how quickly he can catch up to everything else. Yeah,
I think that's 100% accurate. I mean, you see him, he can shadow most guys. I mean, he got torched by Christian Watson today, but it was, wasn't necessarily his fault. He had to fight through a lot of traffic, but he's a really smart kid, and I think he's got a chance to just wrestle that position, away and just take it. But he's got to show he can play off coverage, which is what Gannon plays a lot of. He played a lot of press in college, and off coverage is different. And you have to kind of master, what you can, when you can break, what you can give up to the receiver. And so I think that'll be kind of a process for him.
What about these pass rushers? Because that's the other thing people are looking to see as far as, can somebody step up, make an impact? A hot name that people have been talking about this offseason because he's been working out with Micah Parsons. Barron Sorrell had a 60-yard-ish pick six today.
Yeah. Well, Micah Parsons talked today for the first time in camp and made it clear that, it was an easy interception. That, Sorrell said he thinks he has the best hands in the room. And Parsons was like, well, it was practically thrown to you. So I think, that isn't the focal point with him. I think the focal point has been how well he's rushing the passer. And we kind of saw him at the end of last year in that Minnesota game when he got to play the entire game, that he can be disruptive. And you can see that he's built his body up, and he's playing a little bit different position, when in base defense, they're now outside linebackers. But I think he's a kid to keep an eye on. And it's going to be interesting to see, whether if he can develop even better than Lucas Van Ness. That'll be something to watch, I think.
Tom, the person that I don't call by name until he can actually play 2 full games back to back, the running back they drafted last year behind Josh Jacobs. Talk about how he's looked in camp so far.
I have said on our podcast that I am not going to write a word until September.
There.
So,
yeah. Join the movement, Tom. Join the movement. All right.
Yeah. He looks impressive. I mean, he always looks impressive. He's a heck of an athlete. He's gotten bigger and stronger, and when he makes a cut, I mean, it's explosive. So far so good. He hasn't gotten hurt. Let's get back to me in September again, because if he stays healthy, he'll be their number 2 back, and then we'll see from there. But how much he can, how much effect he can have on the offense. But he's clearly talented, and he's 220-pound guys who can run like that don't grow on trees.
Exactly right. Uber talented, no doubt. And that's the frustrating part about it. He could be their lead back for the next 5-6 years if he can stay on the field here at some point going forward. Tom, thanks so much for coming on, man. Milwaukee Journal Sentinel Packers beat writer. Follow him on X at Tom Silverstein, joining us here on Wisconsin Sports Daily. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
All right. No problem, Spark. Thanks a lot.
Take care. There he is, Tom Silverstein, joining us here on the guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Brewers news. We have some Brewers news. Dustin May is going to make the start on Thursday for the Brewers at home against the Pirates. So that's good. Got Logan Henderson tonight, obviously, for the Brewers. So, okay, positive, Dustin May. What else do we have over there, Charlie?
Brandon Sproat and Garrett Stallings will be the 2 players sent down to AAA in favor of Dustin May being added and Antonio Senzatella being added to the active roster.
Can I nitpick that?
Sure.
Should have just IL'd Ashby instead. He had a back spasm and left Stallings up here. Like I know you're losing a lefty, but you got DL Hall back. So you just put Senzatella in there, the righty, to replace Ashby. Let Stallings stay. Stallings has done fine. Like, he's earned the right to be up here. I know it's been a limited amount of games, but I think I rather would have done that and protected him. Now, you got JoJo Romero, who's got this appendectomy thing that we talked about when the trade happened. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. There will be another opportunity because they'll have multiple lefties out there with Romero and DL Hall. Now you really don't need Ashby in the pen. You can give him a couple weeks off to get ready for, September and playoff baseball at that point. They just, you can sit here and talk about, oh, that's not ethically correct. If he's not hurt, he shouldn't sit. Well, too bad. Like, figure something out and let him take a vacation or whatever he's got to do for 10 days.
Everybody's dealing with something at this point in the season.
Right, nobody's 100%.
You can find a way to juice it a little bit and get him off the field. Yeah, maybe that's just what they're waiting for is JoJo Romero to come back. And once he comes back, then you make that type of Aaron Ashby move to give him that break. But until then, until you've finalized everybody else that you want to move around, you just wait a little bit longer.
What do you think the odds are that Senzatella ends up starting at some point?
Unlikely. I don't think it's going to happen. If they need to, they just bring Spro back up, right?
I don't know, man. Like, we'll see. They've pretty much all said they're playing the game. They're trying to conserve innings for all these young guys. Like, you taught me you can't see Senzatella go out there and start and see if he can get 4 innings for you.
Well, maybe an open, maybe 1 to 2 innings.
Or it's a bullpen game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. He's an opener.
Starts.
1 to 2 innings. I think opener is more likely than like an actual start for sure.
Welcome to game 1 of the NLCS. Senzatella starts for the Brewers after coming over to deal.
And all warming up in the bullpen already and inning number 1. You would be so excited, wouldn't you, Sparky?
Oh my gosh. You're kidding me.
And it's all because Dustin May was hurt.
Oh, stop. Stop. All right. Coming up next, talking about the trade deadline. The question is this: how much ground do you think the Cubs and Pirates gained on the Brewers at the trade deadline from what they did at the trade deadline versus what the Brewers did at the trade deadline? How much ground do you think they made up? Maybe you don't think either one of them made up ground. I don't know. You tell us. Nikolai Law talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. on the socials at WI Sports Radio. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Don't forget about our friends over there at Wendy's. Want to score free Wendy's Frosty Classics this summer? And the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, proud high affiliate of the Milwaukee Brewers, records 10 strikeouts in a game. You can go to any Wisconsin Wendy's and get a free small Frosty Classic. Follow the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers on X or Instagram as they post after every game with 10 strikeouts. This offer is only good for 24 hours following the T-Rats game. So Wisconsin Sports Daily, Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, Charlie Usen, other side of the glass. Don't forget, Potawatomi Sportsbook, 2 levels of seating, high top tables, booths, like 8 people in a booth, big, comfy recliners, first 2 rows looking up at the 2,000 square foot center screen. Potawatomi Sportsbook Kitchen, over 40 beers on tap, dozen different specialty cocktails, full menu, including an all-day brunch going on. We're talking about steak as part of the brunch. Steak. Not every place has like steak and eggs that you can get. Not every place has delicious steak to go along with the eggs.
The best breakfast options out there.
Steak and eggs? Yeah. So you can get all that going on there at the Potawatomi Sportsbook, plus homemade pastries and desserts made every day at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel in Milwaukee. Make sure to check that out. We went over some of the roster moves earlier. Stallings on his way down, as is Brandon Sproat. You knew the Sproat thing was happening because Murphy and Matt Arnold talked to him after the game. When Murphy pulled him in the middle of the at-bat and was like, well, he's done in Milwaukee. We won't see him till next year. I just, unless there's some type of injury here, I don't see how he comes back up. So that was figured.
Is that like one of probably the most demoralizing things to happen to like a player in a baseball game?
But I mean, he's been the Tobias Myers of Pat Murphy's year.
Yeah, but I just mean
he's been in the doghouse with Murphy from the beginning.
To be feeling that down on yourself because you've had a bunch of rough outings in a row, and then you get taken out in the middle of an at-bat, not just the middle of an inning, but the middle of an at-bat, that's got to suck.
Literally, Murphy's walking out, and he's like, well, surely he's not going to pull him in the middle of an at-bat. And then his hand goes up, and he goes, I guess they're pulling him in the middle of the at-bat.
Something you rarely see.
Yes. Normally it's guys hurt. That's the only time you do it. So you just could tell like he was done. And that very well could be why he didn't pitch all that well last night. Probably because he knew he was going to be the odd man out getting Dustin May, and it probably got into his head and, made things more complicated for him. Who knows? So him and Stallings both down in AAA. Senzatella, as well as Dustin May here. Dustin May to start on Thursday. Cool videos coming out of Denver yesterday. Senzatella walking around and thanking all the ground crew members in Denver for the job they've done because he's been there his whole career, and talking to everybody. And then him and Freeland, they've been teammates all the way since low A ball, I want to say. So 13 years. Their families have been kind of rolling together. So that's a big deal too. So we'll see how this all plays out. I did get an email here I wanted to share with everybody concerning the movie Uke. Okay.
All right.
The movie, I should say, had another great weekend. Mind you, they were going up against The Odyssey and Spider-Man this weekend. It has already been extended in 15 Marcus theaters across Wisconsin for a third week starting on Friday. In addition, the movie will open on Friday in 20 independent theaters across Wisconsin as part of a statewide tour sponsored by Miller Lite. In total, it will be playing in 35 theaters across Wisconsin this weekend. Special activities are planned in some of the different theaters, including Miller Lite Toast. There'll be a Q&A going on this Thursday at the Oriental Theater with some of the different people involved with the movie as well. And part of the Brewers broadcast team will be there too. Opening this week, the Oriental Theater in Milwaukee. Is that how you say it? Skyview Drive-In in Monroe. There are not enough drive-in theaters, by the way. I know I'm being an old guy, but man, drive-in theaters rock, and they got rid of like all of them. They do
it at the Milkman Stadium, the Franklin Field, right? Yeah, on the other side some nights.
That all started with COVID, and they've kept it going. So Rumen Cinema in Rhinelander, the Milky Way in Franklin, Hartford 6 in Hartford, Movie 16 in Janesville, the Avalon Theater in Bayview, the Times Theater in Milwaukee, Imagine Geneva Lakes in Lake Geneva, Classic Cinemas in Beloit, the Shawano Cinema and more in Shawano, Lakeland Cinema 6 in Woodruff, Palace Twin Theater in Anago, Sturgeon Bay Cinema 6 in Sturgeon Bay, Sparta Cinema in Sparta, Millennium Cinema in Platteville, Cosmo Theater in Merrill, the Bondman Theater in Video Prairie du Sac, Town Cinema in Watertown, Broadway Theater in Medford, and the Ringling Theater in Baraboo. Those are all the new theaters that get going this week. So we figured this was going to go same as just a bit outside. We figured it'd have probably the same, if not bigger success because of how big Uke is. And this is just locally. Like this thing is going to blow up even bigger nationally once you get this thing eventually to a streaming service or whatever. Then it's really going to take off to the next level.
Yeah, and it's just a great film. It's a great story. I went to go see The Odyssey last week, and you mentioned that's up against it. Like, everybody that was at the theater, it seemed like I think there was 2 theaters that had Uke playing on it. Both of them were filled. We had plenty of room in the Odyssey theater.
Really?
Yeah.
Get out. Wow.
It's a big deal around here, man.
All right, Brewers fans, way to go. Way to support. That's what you want to hear. We don't got a lot of time here. We got to get to the top of the hour update. But just quickly, we were just talking about how much ground, potentially did the Cubs and Pirates gain on the Brewers the trade deadline. Well, you're going to see it firsthand here because the Pirates are playing the Brewers, and really they're owning the Brewers at this point this year. But they're going to get like 4 new guys into that Pirates bullpen here today or tomorrow. And that bullpen is going to be completely different. And they're going to go out and they got veteran guys that are coming in here to do a better job than the others did. And tonight, who is it tonight? Jerry Jones, I think, is the starter tonight for the Pirates. So, yeah. And you know darn right well that dude is going to give you probably 6, would be my guess. Got sub-4 ERA. Very, very talented dude. Going
3.81 ERA right. And 2-2 record, 58 strikeouts in the season.
Yep, going against Logan Henderson. Jones coming off of injury and all that. But again, that starting rotation is very good. So they definitely improved the back end of that rotation. Offensively, they've been one of the better offensive teams in baseball, one of which I've not believed in all year. Dillard does. I do not. Then the other part of it is the Cubs, and they go get a couple relievers, and they get a couple of starters to go along with it. They, I think, made up more ground than probably the Pirates did by adding 2 legitimate starters to their rotation where they desperately needed help.
And they got a win right away out of the deadline against the Dodgers. A good win with Kevin Alcantara, one of the young prospects that they kept around out of the ones they traded.
Dodgers coming off of losing a series, too. I mean, the Dodgers, a little bit of a struggle bus here in the last few days for the Dodgers. Now, we'll see how this changes because who pitches tonight for the Dodgers against the Cubs?
Tarek Skubal, I believe.
Oh, yeah. When did they get him? When did they get him?
Over the weekend, just a couple days ago.
Any good?
Yeah, he's all right.
He's all right.
Just the reigning 2-time Cy Young winner.
That's too bad for the Cubs. I'm sure the Brewers will get stuck playing them next week in LA.
Exactly.
So it's not like the Brewers are going to escape it by any stretch of the imagination. Let's talk about the Crew coming up next. I'll go back to that Skubal deal. There's one name that was tied into that deal that some believe was the sticking point of why the Brewers couldn't get that deal done. And I simply want to know whether or not you would have done the deal or not if, in fact, they had to include said player. We'll talk about that coming up next. Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky with you.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
It is time again as we broadcast live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here, Charlie using over there. Leadoff show comes up today. I'll be hosting that one from 5 until 6:30. We'll hear from Dustin May. We'll hear from Pat Murphy. They both talk today. I would assume Sensatella will probably be there today. Maybe we'll hear from Sensatella on the leadoff show too, if all works out correctly. And then after the last pitch, you make the switch. Potawatomi Sportsbook postgame show. Tim Allen and myself back at it again tonight. Again, if you missed last night's show, definitely want to go back and listen to that wherever you download your favorite podcast. At Best Brewers Coverage, always a good one to search, or the Potawatomi Sportsbook postgame show. You can search it that way too. Some text that I missed in the last hour from the 414. So the Brewers traded Yoho and Blake Perkins for a pitcher and a catcher, both sent to the minors, and then turned around and traded that same pitcher to Baltimore for cash. What on earth for? How does that help us this year at all? From the 414. Bo Naylor is the catcher that they got back. Bo Naylor is under team control for several years. My thought on why they did it is for two reasons. One, Yoho was another guy Murphy wasn't in love with. So you just exit him stage left to get him out of Murphy's hair. So that was one. Two, it's a big picture move. It's not a this year move. Okay. So Contreras and Sanchez, those are your dudes the rest of the way out. They're not cutting Sanchez. Those are their guys. Now, once we get into the offseason, there'll be no baseball and so forth. But once we get back to baseball transactions and all of that, then the Brewers will have a decision to make. Do they keep Contreras for the last year of his contract, or do they move on from William Contreras? Now, history says that they don't move on from bats. They just roll with those bats all the way through. They move on from pitching, but they don't normally move on from bats. That does not mean that that can't change. But let's say they stay with William Contreras and they roll. Then Jefferson Caro, instead of being the AAA catcher, providing he can actually stay healthy because he's always hurt too, providing he can get healthy because right now he's hurt. That's why he's been DHing. Caro then becomes the other catcher to William Contreras. Now, I personally love that idea because one, he's not going to be catching every day, so it'll be harder for him to get hurt. And number two, he's going to learn the MLB, the major league game of how things work. He's going to get to work with the pitchers that he's going to have to be in charge of the following season when Contreras leaves in free agency. So it makes all the sense. Then Bo Naylor becomes that everyday catcher at AAA next year. Then, fast forward 2 years, Bo Naylor then is up at the big league level as the second catcher to Jefferson Caro. They rode between the two of them, and you don't have to worry about going out and signing a veteran catcher or anything of the sort. Those are your two guys moving forward. I think that was the big picture, long play on why they did that deal. I think the pitcher was just part of it for whatever the reason. They got some money out of him, whatever. Clearly was not part of short-term or big-term at the end of the day, Charlie.
No, probably not. I just think that plan, like Bo Naylor only has the 2 years of arbitration left. So in that final year, he'll be that backup catcher. Like,
correct.
It just feels like such a nothing trade. And not that Craig Yoho, I think in my mind, was going to be a long-term option for this Brewers bullpen. He would have been at this point if he was going to be that. He had super high hopes last season before he got to the majors. And every time he got to the major leagues, he just couldn't put it together. I don't know. It just feels like, again, nothing. Along with all these other trades, it just doesn't feel like enough compared to what I think a lot of people were hoping for and what a lot of people were beyond hoping for and were expecting from this Brewers team this offseason. So this deal just feels like it kind of a slap in the face. Like, hey, look, we did a deal to get it going here. We got you guys interested in the trade deadline. But really, it's not going to matter in the long term at all. Frankly, in the short term at all.
Well, and that's the thing. You have to pick and choose why you're making deals and what the long-term deal is, right? Matt Arnold isn't on a deal where it's expiring and he's essentially trying to figure out how to save his job going forward. That He's got long-term security with this organization. He's won back-to-back.
That by making him the president of baseball operations.
Correct. Yeah. He's won back-to-back Executive of the Year awards. So he can make a long play, even though you don't need to make that long play right now. For the same reason of how Goody and Matt LaFleur can draft Jordan Love when they did, because they both were in this for the long play. They both were in this for past Aaron Rodgers. They knew they had job security. So you could make that calculated gamble when they did. The same reason why Ted was able to draft Aaron Rodgers when he did. Not saying Bo Naylor is anything like this, but just saying the point of, no, they don't need it, but they're going to. So they're going to protect themselves. Now, if Marco Dingus is still on this in the minor leagues and he's rolling on up and Dingus ends up taking that job at AAA, next year at some point, okay. But Dingus will probably start the year at AA next year. And then Bo Naylor would be the starting catcher at AAA. And then again, Jefferson Carroll and Contreras is your starting catchers at the big league level. If there's an injury, then Bo Naylor gets called up and he's that other catcher.
I guess my point is that to make a trade for a backup catcher in 2 seasons for that 1 season, yes, obviously he's thinking ahead of time and looking forward to that. But is that really something you need to think ahead of time? Like, is that worth the trade at this point when like that? You can find that. You can find a Gary Sanchez 2 years from now, a dude just assigned for 1 year to be your backup catcher. You don't need to make a trade 2 years in advance for a guy who has not been good at the major league level. It was in the minor leagues. Cleveland was giving up on him, especially after they lost his brother for trade and then free agency. That was another big issue between their family and the organization. Like, just felt like Cleveland was done with him. They were giving us trash, and the Brewers or people around the Brewers are trying to make it seem like it's a bigger deal or that it's such a smart move when it's really just nothing. Again, it's nothing.
I think I don't necessarily disagree with you that it's probably nothing in the grand scheme of things. I'm just trying to explain, I think, from their perspective of why they probably made the move at the end of the day. All right. With that being said, even though that is technically Brewers that we're talking about here, it is 3:00. So
it's time to talk about the Crew. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
I got a text here from the 4-on-4. Contreras ain't going nowhere, Sparky.
Let's hope so. We'll keep. All of us want that, man. It just doesn't feel like that's going to be the case.
I hope you're right, man. I hope you are. We've talked about this. Would you rather extend Contreras or Turang? Right? Who would you rather pay all that money to? And I've said it, and many disagree with me, but I'd rather pay Contreras for multiple reasons. One, he's got 1 year left. Turang's got like 3. That's the first reason. Second reason is because I think he's like the Yadi Molina of the Brewers at this point, where no matter who you give him, it tends to work and they figure it out and they go. I think he's just a pivotal piece to what this pitching staff is and could be going forward, especially when he's been with Chris Hook this whole time. You would have to imagine they're on the same level of how they're thinking of how to attack hitters, strengths and weaknesses of each pitcher, whether a guy has it or not, Hook's trust level in Contreras when Contreras is like, no, he's come get him. Come get your boy. I need somebody else. Right? I mean, you just have to think that's kind of what it is. I want to know this. There's been a lot of scuttlebutt about the Brewers, including 2 top 100 prospects that Adam McCalvy put out earlier. McCalvy says it's Pena and another top 100 prospect, and then a third player. It was known that the Detroit Tigers wanted a controllable pitcher. And there's been many conversation about Logan Henderson potentially having been that guy. And maybe, just maybe, the Brewers didn't want to put Logan Henderson into that deal. Maybe they're trying to give him Gasser. Maybe they're trying to give him Sproat. Maybe they're trying to give him whoever else they wanted to try and throw into that deal to try and hold on to Henderson at the end of the day. My question is simply this. If the sticking point in that Skubal deal was Logan Henderson, would you have cut that deal, even if it meant losing Pena, losing Henderson, and losing another one of your top 100 prospects? I don't think it was Midday. So Josh Adamszewski or somebody like that, would you have been okay if that deal would have included Logan Henderson? Because there's some thinking that may have been the issue at the end of the day. What about for you? Would that have been an issue for you? You can watch Wisconsin Sports Daily in the Growth Law video stream on Instagram Live, X, and on YouTube at WI Sports Radio. Injured Growth gets it. Dial it up, 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Charlie, would it have stopped you from making that Scooble deal, giving up Logan Henderson?
I think it still depends on who the other names in that deal were. Obviously, Luis Pena, we've talked about that. He's the main name in that. If the prospect just outside of most top 100 lists was Andrew Fisher, which I think he probably was, and I would assume was the name that they were trying to put in there, that would stop me from putting Logan Henderson into that deal too. I think I might have done a Luis Pena, Andrew Fisher deal for Tarek Skubal. I think I would have been okay with that. I know a lot of people are going to hate hearing that, but I'd be willing to overpay to get a guy like that into your rotation, to make him that guaranteed number 2, have yourself a set 3 guys, set 4 guys moving forward. I think that's all really important. I don't know if it was anybody else, if it was anybody outside of Andrew Fisher, that would have stopped me. I think Logan Henderson probably would have been on the trade block for me. I think you can develop young pitchers well enough to, at that point, get a player that I think can help you out later on in the future that you can develop that isn't Logan Henderson. That if you can win a World Series, if you have the opportunity to win a World Series with Tarek Skubal in your lineup, I think that helps a lot more.
So that really becomes the thing. Because if you love Logan Henderson, and I think they do, he's got a better ERA than Skubal does. If you really love Logan Henderson and you think he could be, top front end of the rotation guy, to where it's Mizorowski, Harrison, and Henderson for the next several years, those are your top 3, and you think that's essentially Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta, except Mizorowski better than, obviously, Corbin Burns. Harrison, we'll see about the comparison with him and Woodruff, and then Henderson versus Peralta maybe, or Henderson versus Woodruff, and then, however. But if you think those 3 are your controllable 3 to lead this rotation going forward, and you're counting on your loaded farm system with all these bats that are coming to filter in behind these front 3, and then you make your World Series run, you've got all the pieces in place, all of them on cheaper deals for the most part. Yelich comes off in 2 years. Then I can go spend money to fill in the gaps and the holes, whether it be at the trade deadline or in free agency, to essentially then make your run to go to a World Series at that point. You're talking like 2 or 3 years from now, potentially, before all those bats get up here, have a chance to mature and develop and so forth. Pena is the number 2 prospect on this Brewers team. He was what, top 10 prospect? Or is that where he was?
I think he was 18.
11.
The last time we were looking, 18 top 100.
18. Yeah. So top 20 prospect in all of baseball, number 2 in the best farm system in baseball. Plus, according to the McKelvey report, another top 100 prospect. So let's say it's Josh Adamczewski. So you're giving up a second baseman who people love. You're giving up an outfielder who used to be a second baseman that people like. But again, not a huge power guy. Probably had 20, 25 home runs, whatever. So you give up Adamczewski and you give up Logan Henderson for 2.5 months. If you're playing to go win a World Series, to be honest with you, I think I would have done it. I don't think I would have stopped and said, no, don't do this. I think I would have probably signed off on it to get Skubal to put with Miz and Harrison to give yourself a chance to go hit it. And I still would have had Ragsdale, and I still would have had Alexander Frias.
Maybe.
No, maybe. We don't need Justin freaking May if you get Tarek Skubal. I still would have had both my outfielders that I didn't want to give up with everybody else. So all my power is intact because I don't lose a power guy, and we're ready to roll. Pena's got nowhere to go at the major league level. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't, unless they're moving Terang, I don't see where Pena plays. So that would have made complete sense to me. Adamczewski, as we talked about, they have a bunch of other outfielders that are power guys that can run. So moving on from him, even though it would hurt, I would understand that too. And to your point, they seem to develop young pitching okay.
I'm not as worried. Like, I get it. I think Logan Henderson is a stud for sure. He's pitched that way this entire season, that he's been healthy. It's been fun to watch him. At the same time, I think they'd be okay. I think they'd be able to figure that out. What they haven't always been able to figure out is the bats. And I think right now, even some of your best players are struggling at the plate, and that's throwing you off a little bit when your pitchers are trying really hard to keep up, when your pitchers are trying to get rest and your coaching staff is trying to give them that break. this is the time where your bats need to pick it up, and you're seeing it kind of flounder again a little bit. And I think this is the type of move where you go and you solidify that pitching for the now, and you go and make sure that you can pitch year round, because you're not going to be able to guarantee those bats. And you can say, you know what, let's start bringing up some of our other young players, the other guys, the Jesus Medes, the Andrew Fishers, because you now are starting to move on from other prospects and solidify that future that you have for these types of players, and start making tough decisions to make sure you can get this future into motion eventually.
He's Charlie using C Sparky Fiber with you, asking you, if Logan Henderson was the sticking piece, like some think he was, would you have moved him in that deal with Luis Pena and another top 100 prospect if it would have meant cementing the Skubal deal? Nicolay Law talking text line 414-677-1250. 414-677-1250. Mike in Waukesha, you're next on Wisconsin Sports Daily with me, Steve Sparky Pfeiffer. What's up, Mike?
Hey, Sparky. I think, Sparky, you hit it right on the head. I think both of you guys hit it right on the head. I think that they are worried about letting Logan Henderson go. You've got your starting three for next season, and I know it's next season, but you got your starting three guys for next season. I mean, if you let Henderson go, now you're going to be fishing around for some washed-up guys around the league to fill in the starting spots, and we're going to have trouble getting 3, 4, and 5 in there. I'm not under this fantasy that everybody else is under, that if we get Skubal, we're going to match the Dodgers zeros for zeros, because that ain't going to happen in the playoffs. We need to hit the ball. We need to score some runs. You're not going to be looking at a bunch of 1-0 baseball games, because you're not going to shut the Dodgers offense down with, I don't care who you are. But so I think in a way they did it maybe the right way, because you are going to talk about Fisher. There's no way they're going to keep Fisher in the minors next year. He's coming up next year. That guy's ready right now. I don't know why he's not on the squad.
Strikeout rate, that's why.
Yeah, maybe. But, I just think that we're going to have a better shot at this next year than we will this year, because something's going to change with the Dodgers. There might be some changes with this contract negotiations. I don't know,
Mike,
maybe or maybe not.
Mike, you're forgetting about another pitcher that they get back next year. They get back Quinn Priester.
Yeah, but let's
Quinn Priester was
the whole.
Right, but I'm just saying Quinn Priester was really good last year. So to get Quinn Priester back, if he can get back to what he was, that potentially could have been your 3 if you would have moved Henderson.
Yeah, but now you got 4.
Correct.
So if you get Quinn Priester back, you get 4.
That's right.
I really think the pitching is going to be. I'll bet you the pitching. Now you watch tonight, Logan Henderson will go out and get hammered. But I really like Logan Henderson. I mean, he doesn't throw 100 miles an hour. I don't think you have to worry as much about the Tommy John injury. I still worry about our. Mizorowski. I mean, he throws the ball awful hard.
I worry. If we're talking about worrying, okay, the Miz thing, fine, I get. I get concerned about Henderson's back. That's where my issue lies. Mike, thanks for the call. Because normally, we've said this a million times. Once you have a back issue, you'll have a back issue for the rest of your life. I don't care if you have back surgery or you don't have back surgery. Like, I don't think I've ever met a person that had back surgery and said, yep, I've been good for the last 20 years. I have my back surgery. It's nope. I go to a chiropractor. Oh, I do this. I do all these stretching exercises. I do all this stuff. It's never right. It's never ever right.
It's an injury that we've seen already too. That's already affected him.
That's
in
what
his
I'm
career.
saying.
Like,
yes.
we haven't actually seen an injury with Jacob Mizorowski.
Correct.
I understand being scared about it, but like you've seen it with Logan Henderson. You should have concern about that.
No doubt. Big Kev, North Side, long time no talk. What's up, man?
How y'all guys doing today, man?
Doing good.
Hey, Sparky, I got a number one, your earlier comment earlier in the show about it, Terry Skubal wanting to go to the Dodgers. I think it was more of that he just that's where he, I think they just acquiesced to where he wanted to go and just appeased them, because there's no way that any deal with Luis Pena in it is better than anything they were ever going to get with him included in the package. So I think it was more of that. As far as giving up Logan Henderson, I can give up him and his lollipop 92-mile-an-hour fastball. Yeah, he's good and all, but the big thing with him, and I agree with you with his back, but the dude has never physically taken care of himself. That's why he's had, so many injuries. And he actually talked about that after his last start. He's pitching well, but he talked about that because he's never taken care of his body. And he admitted that.
Yep.
And he was like, he says now he's on a regimen, to take care of his body, but physically. I never know an athlete, and I played at the collegiate, at the high collegiate level for football. But I've never heard somebody say I'm a professional athlete and I've never taken care of my body.
Sure you do. Yes, you have. Yes, you have, Kev. Joel Embiid, man. That dude used to have like all these chocolate milkshakes and everything else. Don't you remember those stories from Embiid?
Yeah, Embiid. He's another one. He just got a bad body anyway. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, that really, when he came out and admitted that just kind of threw. And he's already had other. And you mentioned Tommy John. He's already had Tommy John.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he doesn't even. And they talk about the Miz throwing 100, but this dude has already had Tommy John. And he's never even thrown that. He's never thrown at that. At that velocity.
No,
so I would have never had a problem. But I'm also surprised that knowing how the Brewers like to have controlling pieces coming back. I'm surprised that it never dawned on them to just inquire with San Francisco about Logan Webb. Because we would have, he signed to a contract. We'd have had it for 3 more years. I know he's making decent money, but he's making the same money with paying Woody to do nothing.
Yeah, it sounds like he was pretty much untouchable from the Giants' perspective. Big Kev, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. I would have been fine with Logan Webb. We talked about Logan Webb leading up to the deadline about, boy, that'd be nice. But again, it appeared that was one of the guys the Giants weren't actually willing to trade at this point.
It seemed like the Giants, and I think this is kind of understandable with the type of talent you have on that roster, kind of feel like this is just a fluke season. You're getting through it. That maybe next year with the same guys, a really talented group. Typically, this season kind of feels like an outlier that you can figure it out next year. So they didn't want to really truly trade the full house. But the way that they went about the trade deadline said that, again, they're willing to move on from players that just weren't going to be around for a long time, unlike the other guys. And I'm sure they were interested in Rafael Devers and Willie Adames and Logan Webb and all these players. You had to at least hear the offers. And if you were really serious about selling, you would have just sold them.
I got a bunch coming in here on the Nicolay Law Talking text line from the 414. We should have just traded for Randy Arozarena and called it a day. I would have been fine with Randy Arozarena. I absolutely would have done that. No question. I think Tim Allen would have been on that same boat at the end of the day. 920 says, no matter how much pitching you have, it doesn't matter if you can't hit. Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that one either. I see a part of a text here, and I can't find where the other part of the text is. Oh, there. Yeah, here we go. From Adam in South Florida. Is there a log jam between first base and third base with Vaughn, Madej, Fisher, and Burke? Yes, Vaughn will not be a part of the conversation, so we don't have to worry about that. He's got 1 year left on his deal. I wouldn't be surprised if they dealt him because it doesn't appear Murphy wants to play him either. So, and again, Vaughn has slowed down. I mean, in real terms here, I like Vaughn, but he has slowed down. So, Madej, Fisher, Burke, those three, right? To me, it would make sense that Madej would be your second baseman, Fisher would be at third, Burke would be at first, but that means you move Terang. But if you're going to slow play Fisher, if that's what you're going to do, then Madej can come up and play third right away, potentially next year. Fisher then moves to AAA, and then see what happens with Vaughn at first base. And then between Burke and Fisher, one of them then potentially moves up at that point. But I don't think it's too crazy to think that the future DH on this role is Blake Burke or Andrew Fisher. I think either one of those guys could potentially be the designated hitter, or they rotate in that role between first base and between, sharing time at first base or whatever. I mean, Burke is a big dude, but he's got 20 plus stolen bags already, which just amazes me. And you got Luke Adams too, who everybody likes, and he's over in Nashville right now. That's another guy that can hit the ball.
You got so much talent down in that minor leagues, and I think as you get closer towards the end of Christian Yelich's main contract here, I know he's got all those deferral years that we were talking about before. There are going to be more teams that I think are going to be interested in trying to make a move for him and being willing to sweeten the pot. And if the Brewers can get Christian Yelich to waive a no-trade clause, that they'd be willing to move on from him. And then you can kind of fast play a lot of these guys instead of slow play them. And again, to start moving guys up. I talked about it earlier. Keep getting guys up to the major league level as fast as possible. If you're not going to make these trades, show us what we're missing here with these prospects.
From the 414, Tommy and Salas. Yeah, Sparky, you freaked out about our 20th ranked prospect yesterday. No, it was 11 and 13. It was not 20. Charlie would have had to take over the show if they traded the league's 20th ranked prospect and then some. I'm telling you right now, I promise you, I was not going to freak out if they traded Pena. I wouldn't have. It'd been like, okay. Now, Pena for Dustin May.
You might have freaked out a little bit. Yeah.
I would not have been pleased by that one. But trading Pena for Scooble or for a big deal, I would have been fine with. And I said it coming in, like, Jet Williams, see you for a bag of Wendy's. Like, totally fine with that. I got no problem moving him. Talking about Pena, I think he could be really, really good. But between the health stuff going on this year down in Appleton with the Timber Rattlers and not having a place at the inn currently as it sits, to me, it would have been fine. And he's not a power hitter. This team needs power, and they got some coming. They traded away quite a bit of it yesterday, but they still have some down there. That's the biggest thing. This team has to get back to essentially the Braun Fielder, Corey Hart, Ricky Weeks era, where these dudes are all hitting 20-plus bombs, and a couple are hitting 30 to 40 bombs a year.
I don't even know if you need that many. I just think you need two guys to hit 25 consistently. It doesn't feel like right now you're at that rate. Like, it feels like we're going to have a few guys maybe end at like 23, 24 this season with how it's going. And that's just not enough. You need two guys to consistently be at 25 or better. And right now you can't even find that. So, yeah, let's talk about maybe getting back to 4 or 5 guys that can do that. But we just need 2 right now.
Charlie using over there, Steve Sparky Pfeiffer here with you. Coming up next, Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, made a comment to the media covering Bills training camp that I think relates to the Milwaukee Brewers. Just curious whether or not you agree. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily. Steve Sparky Fifer, Charlie Hughes, other side of the glass. Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, proudly outfitted by Burkhardt Sporting Goods, our official apparel partner. Outfit your team or company with custom apparel today at BSG1881.com. BSG1881.com. Maybe you heard Josh talking about the cool deal that they do. They did it for us. I'm sure they can do it for your company as well, where they can kind of like create a website, put all of these different apparel options that you could potentially put your logo or a couple different logos on. And then have all these different options. Like we got like trucker hats, winter stocking caps. We got quarter zips, winter jackets, Letterman jackets, like sweatshirts, all kinds of stuff, bags, all kinds of different stuff that Burkhardt's put out there for the staff to get, which was very, very cool. And eventually you'll start seeing them. I did notice, however, that Steve Zabin doing his show along with Josh, of course, in Green Bay at training camp. And I was watching the YouTube video stream.
Right.
Josh was wearing one of the caps.
Ooh.
Do you have your stuff?
I do not have my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because he's cool and he's got insider information with him. Yeah.
All right. I was like, man, I don't even have one of those damn hats. How is he wearing a hat there on that video? Look good though. I liked it.
I always feel like he has insider trading information or something to get him.
Oh, he knows everybody.
The rest of us,
yeah. Josh knows everybody.
He knows everybody.
No doubt. Speaking of Josh, let's talk about Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. So Josh Allen was on the podcast. This is Football with Kevin Clark. Kevin Clark used to be with the Ringer, if memory serves correct. If you know me, you know I don't like the Ringer. So here is Josh Allen talking about the idea that the Bills continuously go to the playoffs and can't figure out how to go win a Super Bowl.
How do you process the end of the season to take the lessons from it, whether it be from, hey, I could have done this better, or I just want to motivate myself throughout the summer?
Next question. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, definitely we've watched it. We've put it in the past. We've learned from it. And, you know, it's we've been in the playoffs a lot of times in the last, however many years I've been here now. And, just continuing to find ways to learn from it. And I think that's it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes because we haven't gotten it done. But, you knock enough at the door, it's going to open at some point. And that's just what we have to keep doing is keep knocking on that door and giving ourselves chances to be in that situation again.
Can't you say that about the Brewers? Can't you say that about the Brewers? They go to the playoffs damn near every year. They knock on the door. Never opens up. Locked. But the idea is if you keep going, eventually you'll get that break and you'll bust through and you'll get your World Series opportunity. For so long, in my childhood growing up, there was no knocking at the door. It was 26 years without knocking at the door. They didn't even know where the door was. They were just wandering around out in the wilderness trying to find a door somewhere and couldn't find one for 26 years. Now they know exactly where the door is and they go and knock. The problem is they don't know how to get into the door. They don't have the key to get into the door. So the question is, do you believe if the Brewers keep getting close, keep knocking on that door, that eventually that door will open and they'll be able to finish this thing? Are you believing what Josh Allen is selling? Because the Buffalo Bills are pretty much the Milwaukee Brewers at this point, where every year they're in the playoffs, every year there's expectations that they're going to do something, and then they just don't. And they figure out ways to lose in the postseason, seemingly year in and year out. And also, Buffalo's not going to be good this year. They change wide receivers, this, and that. And Josh Allen gets him on his back and says, let's go, boys. And whoop, right back into the playoffs we go. So they overcome expectations. They're there every year, and they can't get it done. He says, keep knocking, you'll get through eventually. Are you there with the Brewers? Do you think that the door will ever open? Nikolai Law talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. I will simply say this. Unless there is a dramatic change to the CBA when they get to negotiating this thing starting in December, which the Dodgers win another World Series, and that's 3 in a row. There are several owners according to multiple reports that believe there will be no season at all next year. It will not simply happen. But if that doesn't change, but a little bit, and there's not major changes, legitimately, they're going to have major luck from the aspect of teams are going to have to be hurt that are more talented to give themselves a chance, and they're going to have to be healthy to give themselves that chance to get to the World Series and win a World Series. To where if it's the Dodgers again, and say he signs a deal with the Dodgers, Skubal, which, come on, don't we all expect that at this point? So say Skubal stays in LA. So where you're going to have to get lucky on a given year where Skubal's out, Ohtani's out, right? And they're missing their best guys. Oh, Yamamoto is out, and they simply don't have the guns and that starting rotation to deal with you. And then you finally bust through and get into that door. To a certain degree, if Leroy Butler's listening, just turn off the radio, Roy. You're sick of hearing me talk about this. To a certain degree, that Packers team with Brett, they got lucky. If you remember when they went and won that Super Bowl, who did they not have to go and face? They did not have to go to Dallas to try and beat the Cowboys. They'd been knocking on that door for some time and couldn't get in no matter what happened. Instead, they get Carolina in Green Bay and find their way into the Super Bowl and win the thing. There is luck involved in every title for every team. This is not me just saying, oh, they got to get lucky. No, every team has to get lucky. Every team has to get lucky in different ways. And for the Brewers, it's simply they've got to figure out how they're going to get around or through the Dodgers. And as I've said previously, perfect scenario is the Dodgers get the Cubs or the Phillies or somebody else in that divisional round. The Brewers get the other team, and the Dodgers stumble and fall and trip up against a different baseball team. And then the Brewers get whoever is left in the NLCS. And then you feel much, much better about things just from a mental standpoint of, okay, it's not the Dodgers. Okay, we can beat these guys. Let's go, right? Versus, oh, crap, these dudes again. Oh, man. And then all of a sudden, you're down 4-0 after 5. You can't score. You got one hit. And you're like, and we're right back to where we were last year. We're stuck again. Phone lines are blowing up to Tim Allen. I told you they couldn't hit. They needed a bat. This offense, you just know. Like, that's what's going to happen. But if it's Milwaukee, Philly, if it's Milwaukee and Cubs, God, I do not want that as an NLCS. If it's Milwaukee and Cubs, whatever the case may be, you're going to go in feeling more confident, I think, as a fan, and I think as a team, that you can beat that pitching, whoever they put in front of you.
I think you definitely feel more confident. I think part of the Dodgers' luck last season was the fact that the Brewers did have to face the Cubs before going into that series because the Brewers were just completely emotionally spent by that point. Like that next series, it was all starting from ground zero because you spent it all versus the Cubs. I think from this idea that you always have to be able to knock on the door. You're always knocking on the door. That always gives you the opportunity. I think some Brewers fans get a little worried and this is because the NFL is a little different. If you have a quarterback like Josh Allen and you have him consistently under contract, he's going to be your franchise quarterback. He's been that guy his entire career. You constantly are on the doorstep, it feels like, because you're already there.
Isn't that what Miz is going to be?
Potentially, until you lose him, until you lose some other players because you can't re-sign them or you choose not to re-sign them. I think that's what people get worried about.
You had Burns and Woodruff and Peralta that kept you on that doorstep year in, year out, year in, year out. You had Braun and Fielder that kept you there. You had Yelich and Braun and Kane or whatever. They kept you there for a certain amount of time. You say whatever you want about the Brewers, not being able to put together a Hall of Fame team like the Dodgers have put together. But the Brewers have been able to keep really good baseball players under contract for a pretty good significant of time in Milwaukee. That's allowed them to keep core groups together, at the major league level and giving each core group, 3 to 5 year window with each core group of players that they put together. They have some pretty good players on it to try and bust through. And I think right now we're in a transition. I don't think this thing that we're looking at right now necessarily is the meat and potatoes of what the real next window chance is necessarily. The next window chance comes in this next group of hitters when they get here. So then you have probably 5 years or so to make another serious run over 5 years as these guys mature and get better to try and compete with the big boys. The problem is that the Dodgers, they're not going back. Like they're just not. They're not going to go back in reverse unless you throw a hard cap and make it impossible for them to keep that payroll together. That's the only way.
And even then, they're still in LA. They're still the Dodgers winning World Series recently. They're still going to always have an advantage on you. Yes, it gives you a little bit of a chance, but you got to find any way to get that advantage still, even with the salary cap.
No doubt. All right, take a quick time out. Come back. Charlie Sounds of the Day is coming up. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky with you. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily. See Sparky Pfeiffer, Charlie Usen, other side of the glass, and it is time for his segment.
What sound clips will Chicago Charlie pick today for Sparky? Will Sparky become enraged? Will laughter ensue? It's time for Charlie's Sound of the Day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Charlie Usen, where to?
All right, we are going to head on over to foul territory where Jim Bowden, former MLB GM, was discussing the Brewers missing out on more than just Tarek Skubal at the trade deadline, other big-time starting pitchers that they also missed out on.
They did have enough to go get Skubal without Made, in my opinion, and they certainly had enough to get anybody else. More than above any other team, they could have done it, and they didn't. So hopefully, Harrison will come back and be what he was in April and May. Hopefully May will step up. Hopefully, Logan Henderson and Sproat will be able to do what they do. I know they tried to get Freddie Peralta. They felt like they could fix him, but Tampa came in and paid more than they were willing to do. And I'm not sure the Mets president, David Stearns, wanted to return him to the Brewers at 25 cents on the dollar. So that probably lessened their chances of acquiring him. But yeah, I wish they had done more, but Dustin May and Senzatella is better than not doing anything. At least you got better. You added 2 arms plus Romero.
That's all that you've got to go with. That's what Tim and I were talking about last night postgame show was, are you better now than you were yesterday? Yes. They sent down Sproat today to AAA, and they sent down Stallings. Stallings didn't deserve to be sent down. But either way, it's a numbers game. So they both get sent down. Senzatella and May now on the roster. May starts on Thursday against the Pirates. If you got tickets, you'll get to see Dustin May make his debut for the Milwaukee Brewers. So yeah, they're better. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're not better. I think they did get better. What's next?
All right. I got to find a little bit of a shorter clip. Give me 1 second. I got backup close. So we're going to head on over to the Brewers game from this past weekend where Jacob Mizorowski was throwing in LA, and he had some thoughts on the Brewers mound.
Yeah, it was awful. It was probably one of the worst mounds I've had. It was dry. It was rock hard. So, I had the guys out there fix it 2 times. And, we got it back to being decent. But yeah, it was awful. It was bad.
When did you first notice it? Right away? Or?
Yeah, right away. It was, you broke it up, and when you got an inch down, it was rock hard. So, it is what it is, and you can't blame it on that, and I got to do my job.
How do you do that when there was one they saw you really slide down the mound as they were fixing it?
Yeah, make an adjustment. That's all you can do, There's not much, you got to figure out a way.
Is that an injury risk?
Yeah, of course. There's always an injury risk. Anytime that, there's something astray, it's always a possibility.
I agree with Tim Allen and his take on this. Shut up. Just shut up. Don't talk about this. Please, I beg you.
Is this the same as Murph in the flight?
Just stop talking. No, it's different. Because from a strategic standpoint, if I know that bothers you, and I got my grounds crew here, I'm going to try and replicate that as if at all possible. And then when I get told to come out there and work, we're going to work real slow and maybe not do everything as quickly as I would if it was my pitcher, right? If I know it messes with you, then yeah, I'm going to do it. And that's something cosmetically that can be, done at a road stadium in LA against the Dodgers or Wrigley, because as he points out, nobody else has my reach, my stretch. Right? Nobody else is tall as me.
Well, it's not on purpose. So it just nobody else goes down.
Right. So his foot where it lands is not the same as anybody else pitching in the game. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Just don't say that. Just don't talk about it, please. Green and Gold updates coming up next. Plus, Aram Leighton, Just Baseball, will join us coming up at 4:20. Great minor league dude. We've had him on before. Want to get his thoughts on the Brewers trades coming up straight ahead. Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky with you.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I am Sparky. He is Charlie Usen. What are you laughing about?
You haven't been excited about anything in 2 days, and now you get the Brewers lineup, and you are as happy as a clam over there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Come back in with all this enthusiasm.
Yeah, I'm happy. It's making me smile. It is. So the lineup is out for the Brewers. And normally I would be like, leadoff show at 5. And I am doing the leadoff show from 5 to 6:30, but this is too big of news not to tell you about right now. Here is your lineup. First of all, I want to go back to something else from the 715, because this was sent in last night, and the person texted it again 13 minutes ago. Sparky, I sent this in last evening at 11:11. With Joey's 3-hit night, you can place a bet at Potawatomi that he will be benched for tomorrow. I was correct. Put Joey on the pine again, but at least Merv is coming around and something else. So he called it last night, or she, whatever the 715 is, that watch Ortiz have 3 hits to get benched the next day. And Joey Ortiz is not in the lineup, so he or she is right about that. Here's your lineup. Terang leading off at second base. Okay. Jackson Cherios in left field. Jake Bauers batting third at first base. Normal. William Contreras is catching and hitting cleanup. In center field, Garrett Mitchell hitting fifth. Luis Lara is in right field. Now we are at 7 is the next person I'm going to say in this order. A designated hitter, Christian Yelich, is batting 7th. Pratt is 8th at shortstop. Hamilton is 9th at third base. Christian Yelich is hitting 7th. You need to go back on Baseball Reference and his career numbers and see how many times he's batted 7th in his career. That's what I was. I would be interested in knowing how many times the man has actually had to hit 7th. Did he ever hit 7th in the Marlins lineup? Because I can't imagine.
Probably would have had to.
I can't imagine he's hit 7th in Milwaukee very much, if ever, in Milwaukee at this point. We'll hear from Pat Murphy from before today's game. I'll play that back to you in its entirety. But Adam McKelvey tweeted this out from Murphy. Quote, I think there comes a point where you want something to change. You want something to spark. You want a different direction. This is what's best for the club. Murph, over here. Steve Sparky 5 for Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Yeah. Hey, if this doesn't work, what's next? Like, is there a chance? Like, essentially, he just becomes a bench player going forward. Like, is that a possibility between now and the end of the year, Murph, with Christian Yelich? What do you think he would say?
Yeah.
No chance.
No, probably not.
Hey, man. If I was guessing, he'd be like, well, why am I going to assume the negative and think it's going to go absolutely worse? Like, I'm going to assume the positive and think this gets him going here in the 7th hill. So I'm not going to allow myself to think about the idea of him not producing between now and the end of the year and something else having to happen. So that's it.
Baseball Reference wants me to pay money to see the actual stats, but it looks like he batted 5 separate times in his career. 7th.
That's it.
That's it.
So there is not a big
5
sample
games.
size at all. So Christian Yelich, your number 7 hitter at American Family Field tonight. So if you're going to the game, I mean, I know there is a good portion of Brewers fans that did not want him leading off anymore. You had your wish. They pulled him out. Then they moved him down to 4. Then they had him at 3. And now they move him all the way down to 7 with Lara in front of him, a rookie, and Pratt behind him, another rookie. Now, again, both guys playing well, not knocking either guy, but rookies on either side of him down in that 7 hole. If you look at his numbers, up until at least a few days ago before they moved him on leadoff hole, his numbers with runners on and runners in scoring position were really good. 290 or so, somewhere in that area. Now, those may have decreased since they moved him on that leadoff spot, because I don't feel like he's really come up with many big hits since then. This will give him an opportunity to potentially drive in more runs to get going. I don't know from a mental standpoint what this does for him, right? So Is this motivating? Is this, I don't want to say depressing, but does it grind on him and weigh on him, on his shoulders, where now he's really kind of feeling the pressure of the situation? And somebody had brought up to Murphy last night about Sproat and about the idea of, well, you just got Dustin May and probably feeling some pressure and so forth. And Murphy was pretty much like, hey, man, it's baseball. Like, if you can't handle pressure in baseball, then you shouldn't probably be playing it. Like, that's not what it is. It's you versus the pitcher if you're the hitter. And if you're the pitcher, it's you versus the hitter. It's one-on-one. You got to do your job. If you can't handle that pressure of somebody trying to constantly take your spot at all times, regardless of what position you play, you can't handle that pressure of having to play, at a high level every single time you're at the plate and make a play defensively at a high level every single time, then maybe this isn't the sport for you. Well, here is Yelich now, I would say in a relatively high pressure situation, because if he doesn't do anything here for the rest of the month at 7, there is going to have to be a conversation about maybe he shouldn't be in the lineup and somebody else should be a designated hitter. For me, it's like, you got like 3 weeks, figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to go, because you've got to, whoever is going to be here has to be here by September 1 for the playoff roster. So if you're debating something here, as far as you want one of the young guys to be a designated hitter or whatever it is, you kind of got to make up your mind sooner than later.
I would say sooner than that. I don't like 2 series you give this. And if he doesn't figure it out, if he isn't going and hitting at least getting 3 hits per series, I would say maybe 2 home runs throughout that stretch, a 2-series stretch, just getting better. Like, you just need to be better. Your power numbers need to be better. Maybe not even home runs, extra base hits. I'll say 2 extra base hits. You get 6 hits total between 2 series. I'll be happy with that, Christian. We'll keep you in the lineup then. We can figure this out. But with other guys, with Brandon Sproat, with Lance McCullers, a guy that was barely on the team, you were really quick to decide now that this is the time that we need to move on from that.
Sure were.
And you have to be able to do that with a Christian Yelich too, if you really think you have a chance to be one of the best teams in the league, which right now you're playing towards that. And I think with Christian Yelich, he would have to understand that, given the amount of opportunities he's had so far this season, that if he's not going to pick it up, other guys have to get those opportunities moving forward, other guys who have been able to perform. And I think he would understand that. I think the team would understand that. It's not trading him. It's not cutting him. It's benching him. It's sucks. It would be a blow to his ego, but you're still on the team and you're still there to be able to help when needed, because so far this season, you've been a better pinch hitter. So just do that.
Well, and to a degree, he's one of the leaders on this team, whether you like it or you don't like it. Like, that's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and I tell this story all the time back in the day, that when we were doing afternoons in Milwaukee with Gary Ellerson and Leroy Butler, the trader, then known by his real name of Craig Counsell, when he was a member of the Brewers, we all thought he wanted to be like us. He was in the midst of going 45 consecutive at-bats back in 2011 without getting a hit. And myself and many others were like, can we please just be done with this? Like, I know he's from here. I get all that, but he sucks. Can we please just move on? We don't need to watch 0 for 45. It's enough time. Put him out of his misery and let's move forward. Let him go try somewhere else and let's move on. And I was told by the former players, nope, he's a vet. Just let him work himself out of it. This isn't some young guy. It's a vet. You got to keep letting him work himself through it. That's exactly what's going on now. The big difference, though, is Yelich has a bigger track record of high-level success than did, Craig Counsell back in the day when he was a member of the Milwaukee Brewers. He had a track record of being clutch. Absolutely. But he did not have the track record of putting up MVP-like numbers. And you're like, I know it'll happen. I know it'll happen. Because you have to believe, in the back of Matt Arnold's mind, Pat Murphy's mind, Vogelbach's mind, these guys are all thinking the same thing. Man, how did you hit 29 home runs last year and look like that? And now you look like this. What the heck happened? And the only thing I can put together is his back. But there's been no talk about that whatsoever. Nobody said, hey, he's having some back issues. He's just trying to gut it out and get through it. Now, that does not mean it's not a thing, because a lot of times at the end of the year, we find out that, player X was dealing with this all year, and that's why he struggled, but they kept it under wraps because they didn't want people talking about it. So he could be physically going through some stuff, and we just don't know at this point. In which case, I'm sorry, I feel bad for you. But at the end of the day, it's got to be about producing and trying to put this team in the best position to win a World Series. That's why, again, like I said, you go down to the 7-hole today, Mr. Yelich. Okay, got like 3 weeks. And if this isn't fixed in 3 weeks, then you've got to figure out something else. You just do. Do I think they're going to figure out something else? I really kind of don't. No. I think they're going to stick with this dude no matter how bad he is, and he's going to start every game in the postseason as the designated hitter, regardless of where he is in the lineup. They're going to let him play and hope he busts out of it, even though his postseason numbers are absolutely horrible outside of his first postseason with the Brewers. Every other postseason, nothing to write home about. Nothing at all to write home about.
It's time for your green and gold update on Wisconsin Sports Daily, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer.
All right, let's get to Matt LaFleur, who earlier today answered a bunch of questions. This we're going to lead with this one here, because do you know when you're a really, really good team?
Yeah.
When kickers are the topic of conversation and the stress point for a lot of fans. I mean, that's because if your kicker stinks and you're going to win 4 games, nobody cares that your kicker stinks because we're not good enough to win anyhow. Who cares? But when you're really good and you don't have a good kicker and it potentially cost you a seeding that you needed in the playoffs or potentially cost you a playoff game, see the one against the Bears, if that happens, now it's a stress point, just like relievers. Who cares if you don't have a good reliever when you're winning 55 games a year? Nobody cares. But you're winning games like the Brewers and the Dodgers, and the back end of that bullpen is everything because it could cost you a World Series if you don't have good relievers in the back end of the bullpen. So here's Matt LaFleur talking and answering questions about the kicking situation.
Yeah, I think that's what it's got to be. I think whether you're for any young player or any player in general, there's going to be some trying times, and you have to show the resiliency, and that's one of the keys to being successful.
It was Sunday. He missed a kick left, and you went to go talk to the referees, and then they stopped signaling. What's that one about?
I just want to make you guys work for your money. You guys decipher.
So stupid. It's so dumb. Like, I read this quote earlier today. I'm going to be funny guy and make you guys figure it out. What did you think was going to happen? They don't know what a made field goal looks like? What? Or was it or was it a mental psychology thing for your young kicker, Trey Smack, of you don't want to see them keep waving no good, no good, no good. So instead, you don't need to see that. The fans don't need to see that. So we're just going to kick, and we're not going to make it good or bad.
Trey, you know the best way to get the refs to stop waving off your kicks and saying that they're no good?
How's that, Charlie?
It's to make your damn kicks. That would be awesome, dude.
It's
and then people
like,
would stop talking about you.
But instead, it's kind of like everybody wins a trophy, right? Everybody gets a medal. So that's what we're doing here. We're trying not to hurt.
You have to. He's the only kicker on the roster.
We're trying not
you don't
to
even
hurt.
have Lenny Creed.
But again, we're playing to Smack's mental well-being at this point. And we're not even a full week with pads on yet. Yeah. We're already at that point? Come on, Matt LaFleur. All right.
It is hard from our angle.
By design.
Yeah. But we would prefer to be correct. Other than I thought you made 4. I mean, Trey confirmed it all yesterday. I thought you made 4. I think Ryan said he made 2. I mean, we're all just
Ryan was wrong.
Yes, it was. But I mean, what's the big deal if we know?
I mean, what's the big deal anyways?
See?
I think people about all the kickers done.
They should have just won.
I know, but it's, I mean, at the end of the day, you're talking about practice situations. I think
Iverson.
The real tests will come in those preseason games, and then obviously into the regular season.
Stop. That right there. The real test will come in the preseason and then in the regular season. You mark my words. That dude misses kicks against the Steelers, the Cardinals, whatever, and they bring this up. Hey, man, he missed both kicks today, both field goals. Any concern? It's the preseason. We're working on stuff. Nothing to be concerned about. You know, regular season is what matters. He'll sidestep the preseason games when we get to that point. Mark my words. He just put him on point saying it matters. And when we get there, he's going to side hustle his way right out of that conversation.
Well, I think what helps him is he said that about a lot of people today too, is that, oh yeah, we'll see in the preseason. We'll see how it goes then. We'll see how it goes then. So at least he can then lump it in with everybody else and say, not have it be focused on just Trey Smack.
You wanted to butt heads with McManus. Good job. I was against this from the get, and I'm still against this whole going away from the veteran.
Bring back Anders Carlson. Competition.
Even if it's, well, fine. Go bring in a real veteran that's kicked in the league for 7 or 8 years as competition. Yes, I'm all for that. I don't care who it is. Go bring in somebody because you're going to repeat history. You're going to give the job to this kid like you did Carlson and then regretted it. Now you're going to do the same thing. And you traded up for the kid. Mind you, it was at the end of the draft, but still.
That he's missed some, and it's early, it's August 4th. Are you feel comfortable?
I just love making you guys uncomfortable with this.
I shouldn't say happy, it's probably the wrong way to put it, but
I just think it's going to be a work in progress. I mean, I understand this is not our first time with a rookie kicker.
Nope.
So I know that there's going to be some good, and I know there's going to be some that he's going to want to have back. And I think that's just all part of the learning process. I think every kicker wants the ball held a certain way. And I think there's a little bit of an adjustment for how he likes it versus how a guy like Brandon liked it. And,
come on, man.
Don't do Lucas when he was here. And so it's one of those things that the whole operation's going through. We don't even have, Matt Orzik's not even out there.
I'm done. I can't. I'm done. I'm so done. I'm telling you right now, next week, there's going to be a show, or is it this week? No, it's Monday, I think. Monday, I think it is. I'm doing the Mason Crosby show and this show from State Fair. Okay. So I'm going to get some one-on-one time with Mason.
Yep.
That is going to be played. And we're going to talk about that right there, what he just said. All of that.
I was very deliberate that I left it all together because I knew it would get them all worked up.
Absolutely.
Back to back to back.
You've got to be kidding me with some of that stuff he just said. All right, coming up next, a guy that's bright and smart and intelligent and funny. Would never say dumb things like that about a field goal kicker. We're talking Brewers trades. Now, that's not going to make me too happy because I hated the Brewers deal. But maybe he'll make me feel better about it. Aram Leighton joins us next. Just baseball. Straight ahead, it's Wisconsin Sports Daily. Live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Leadoff show, getting ready for Brewers-Pirates Game 2 tonight. Comes up next at 5 o'clock. Joining us now, you can see his face right there on the Growth Law video stream on Instagram Live, X, and YouTube at WI Sports Radio. Injured Growth gets it. Joining us is Aram Leighton from Just Baseball. Follow them online at JustBB_media. Follow Aram on X at Aram Leighton 8. Aram, thanks so much for coming on again, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You are just a great follow, man. I love watching all your stuff that you do. You do a great job. So I want to get your thoughts on the 2 Brewers trades first off, and then we can talk about the Skubal trade. First, let's start with the trade that didn't irritate me, the Senzatella trade. That irritated me as much, mainly because I don't know as much about the 2 guys that the Brewers gave up in that deal. What did you make of the Senzatella deal with the Colorado Rockies?
Yeah, I think that's a fun addition. I mean, Senzatella has really figured it out in the relief role, and I think there's even more to potentially unlock there, right? Because it's a guy that kind of figured it out, be transitioning as a reliever at Coors. And I also, they've made a lot of improvements. Alon Leishman taking over the pitching duties in terms of like development and being the pitching coach out there has helped a lot with the Rockies, but I don't think it's going to compare to what the Brewers have been doing in terms of infrastructure wise. So Senzatella's stuff's loud. I think there's even more upside in there. And these are more further off prospects that I don't think you're going to lose much sleep over. Martinez is interesting, as is almost any lower level, Brewers prospect, because there's so many talented prospects that the Brewers seem to get the most out of. But I think this is one that could potentially really help the bullpen, and wouldn't be surprised at all to see Senzatella take another leap forward in Milwaukee.
So that deal was second, and I was already livid from the first deal. So when the second deal came, I was ready to get even more mad at what they gave up to Senzatella. Then the details came out. I said, okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that deal. The first deal yesterday, okay, you're getting Jojo Romero and Dustin May. Okay. Then there was this fake account that had the Brewers getting giving up Coleman Crow and Josh Noth. And I was like, well, that's good. I'll take that. I mean, Noth may turn into something at some point, I guess, but that's not a bad deal. I'll take that deal, no problem. And then came the real deal, which was Ragsdale and Alexander Frias. And then I became absolutely unhinged on the radio when I heard it was those 2 dudes going in this deal for multiple reasons. Number one, this farm system has some outfielders in it. This farm system does not have a lot of power hitting outfielders in it to begin with. Frias, he right now is young. He's 18, doesn't get a lot of loft on the ball and all that. But profile, quick hands, all that says he's going to get the ball up and he's going to have some power. Ragsdale has been unconscious, like absolutely unconscious with power. And I saw him play for the Timber Rattlers, which is not that far from Milwaukee in Appleton. Saw him play earlier when Fisher was there and Payne and everybody was there. So I went and saw them. Then he moves up to Biloxi and, like Fisher, has just continued on doing his thing. I was mad that they traded both of them. But what made me more mad was they traded him to a team that is a rival in the Cardinals, that if they do work out, you are going to have to deal with them for God knows how long, 13 times a year. That's what really kind of pushed me over the edge for May, who has a 4+ ERA on the road, which, by the way, Milwaukee would be considered the road from being in St. Louis, with a 6+ ERA from that perspective. And Romero, who's coming off appendectomy surgery, won't be ready for a couple of weeks. He's not blowing anybody away. He gets guys out with his like 82-mile-an-hour slider, which seemingly has worked, a 3-something ERA, which is fine. But I went on next and I said, this is an F. I hate that deal. Absolutely hate that deal. But
yeah, that one
talk me into it.
Yeah, I wish I could. So the Brewers, though, man, like I will say, I won't fully judge a trade from them until, and really I should do this with most teams, but it's just especially the Brewers, until I get to see a handful of outings from the guys that they acquire, because and especially even offensively, you see guys just kind of they get their hands on with the hitting development side of things, and it's really impressive, obviously. But I think May is clearly a guy that has really good stuff, has had flashes of being really successful this year, and then has hit a bit of a wall. And maybe they have a plan with him. Romero has just consistently been an effective reliever for really 4 years now. But it didn't seem like it was this desperate need for them, which is what I thought was interesting. And to your point, they did pay a little bit of that in-division tax to a Cardinals team that all of a sudden Chaim Bloom, like with some of the shortcomings he had in Boston, the one thing you can never take away from him is this guy knows how to build a farm system.
He came from Tampa Bay, like Matt Arnold. Right.
Yeah.
And yes, he's changed everything in St. Louis.
Yeah. And and it's happening quickly. Now, here's the devil's advocate. Josiah Ragsdale was somebody that nobody was really paying attention to last year. 7th round pick, minimal financial investment. He was like a slash and dash guy at 55% ground ball rate in a brief pro debut last year. Then Brewers get their hands on him, get to work with him because the Brewers hitting development as it pertains to prospects is better than anybody in minor league baseball, in my opinion. And they get this guy elevating. They get him hitting the ball harder. The swing decisions improve. And he's this guy that now you don't want to give up, right? The Brewers fans don't want to give up. That's basically creating an asset there. That's what the Brewers do better than anybody. So when they go and see a Sawyer Strohsnyder kind of fall into their lap in the draft, another outfielder with power, some swing and miss concern, maybe that's a guy that they feel really good about being able to bring to a higher ceiling than that. Frias was the one that I thought was interesting on top of it. I could see one or the other. The two together was fascinating to me because you have the power speed defense combination of Ragsdale with what you've unlocked. I could see you saying, hey, minimal investment in him at the end of the day. We're okay with it. We're selling high as he's really breaking out in high A, double A. Frias is this guy that I feel like is such an exciting ball of clay to be able to mold and work with, especially for, again, an organization that's so good at it. You see the power potential, how hard he's already hitting the ball, the long levers, the lankiness, the athleticism, and what you can dream on there. And I was surprised to see them move him. Almost my first thought was like, well, what's the catch? What's wrong with him? What do they know? And I don't necessarily think that's the case. It just seems like the Brewers were okay doing it because they can bet on themselves creating more assets.
And they're so good in the international market right now. Like if you look like this Monet's guy that they got coming, I mean, there are like 3, 4, 5 international guys right now that are at the lower levels. They all kind of look really good at this point, Aram.
Yeah. Frontado has been balling out for them at the lower levels. You even look at, Ricky Monies has been really, Monet's, I want to say Monies every time. It's like my favorite name. And Jesus Madej was my favorite name before he was even a good player. I remember looking at the IFA log. I'm like, I'm going to follow that guy. Who knew he'd be the number one prospect in baseball? It's been really fun to see what they can do. And they do have several other lower level guys on the IFA side of things specifically, where I just feel like they feel like they can replenish. The one thing, and I think you hit the nail on the head with this, is that if they were getting players with control, I would understand it a little bit more because it's like, okay, they're helping us beyond this year. Yeah, we're helping them beyond this year too. The fact that it's kind of rental for these two, prospects that could potentially be key pieces for the Cardinals if it all works out, that's where it was a little bit more surprising. But I'm never going to fault the Brewers for going for it because I've been begging them to do that, even to this degree, for a long time.
And again, I'm just warning everybody, St. Louis is going to be coming here. I'm within 2 to 3 years, I'm telling you, he is going to have that whole thing figured out there. And the Skubal deal, that's the other part of this that I wanted to get you on to talk about, Aram, because I think a large chunk of us, myself and others that are listening to us right now across the beautiful state of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, I think a lot of us are all now of the idea after reading Brian Cashman and seeing what Matt Arnold has said and so forth, that the Tigers may just have done good by Tarik Skubal on the way out. He wanted to go to LA, so they helped him get to LA. That was the farm system. They were trying to figure out what deal they could make with LA to make them happy and get what they wanted. And they were going to do well by him. Giannis and the Bucks wanted to go to Miami. They sent him to Miami. Now, that doesn't happen in every situation. Damian Lillard wanted to go to Miami, and he ended up in Milwaukee. And then he goes back to Portland. But, I mean, so sometimes that does happen. But McKelvey put out there today, Brewers beat writer, that from what he's heard, it was Luis Pena in that offer, another top 100 prospect from the Brewers, assuming that it's not Jesus Madej, obviously. So maybe it's Josh Adamshevsky or somebody like that. And then Detroit wanted a controllable pitcher. And the name that everybody throws around that it could have been is Logan Henderson. And maybe if they were actually negotiating in good faith and so forth, maybe the Brewers balked at moving Logan Henderson and not want to give him up. We don't know one way or the other. But if Pena's in the deal and it's another top 100 Brewers prospect, that's a better deal than what they got from the Dodgers.
So this is where it's interesting. I have a couple, and I've seen a lot of people say that. I do wonder if it really is like, I don't know if I subscribe to the idea that they wanted to do right by the guy that beat him in arbitration for a $30 million price tag that also then impeded on the value of which they're going to be able to get for him in a trade, right? Like I know the Dodgers don't care about money, but at the end of the day, $10 million going, either way, having to take on the 10 is going to be calculated into the equation there.
Yep.
And Scott Harris, man, like he's a pragmatic guy. Like he's all numbers. He's very much focused on maximizing the return. What I think is interesting is it was reported and discussed, and I'd heard this for a little while, that they very much wanted that big league starter. They wanted that controllable starter. And if you look at their rotation right now, there's 3 bodies there. Like if you look at roster resource on Fangraphs, there's 3 bodies right now. And then they're going to get Joe back and then potentially now River Ryan back into the fold there. But I think that starting pitcher aspect was really important to them. And I do think that was probably the big hang up in the return, because I wouldn't want to move Logan Henderson. He somehow has an extra year of control than even River Ryan has through 2030 to 2032. I think he's a free agent, and he has more of a track record of success. I can understand Milwaukee balking at that, but Zaire Hope is a really good player that's already dominating now Double-A, 10 homers in his last 22 games. River Ryan, I know people talk about the age. But
that sounds like Ragsdale. Just saying. Yeah. Go ahead.
That's fair enough. That is fair enough.
Yeah.
You pair the River Ryan side of things where, yes, he's older, but the stuff and the fact that he's big league ready, the second the hamstring's healed, he's out there. And then the third piece, Brady Smith, is not, light per se. But I think if you just looked at it like from a draft model perspective, what was maybe the most surplus value, I think you make a good point that the Brewers, in terms of in aggregate, with all the prospects they could have offered, probably could have beat that Dodgers offer and maybe did. But that's where it becomes interesting, where are you really needing that pitcher that badly? Or was it one of those situations where maybe, like you said, they did do right by Skubal? I just struggle to see Scott Harris doing that from everything I understand about Harris.
As you get to know me better, Aram, you'll understand that I love conspiracy theories, and I love coming up with conspiracy theories. What if, conspiracy theory, the owners were all kind of like, you need to help us get this damn thing. You need to move them to LA. Get what you can, but no Tampa, no Milwaukee, none of that. We want them to go win this thing, and then we're going to shut this damn thing down and get our hard salary cap. Again, that's conspiracy theory 101. That'd be collusion and everything else that you want to talk about going forward here. But that would, because again, everybody was in agreement leading up to the deadline for 2 or 3 weeks. Everybody's like, if he goes to the Dodgers, we may not have a season at all next year. Yeah. Everybody was in agreement that that's what this was going to be. And then you hear from these guys, Cashman's like, they went silent on me. Like they just disappeared. That was the end of it. And the Cubs, that athletic piece talking about how Tampa Bay, they were talking to Tampa Bay, but their eyes were on the Dodgers the whole time in the Dodgers farm system. And the Cubs didn't want to give up what they wanted to do. So the Cubs were out. They never mentioned word one about what the negotiation was like between Milwaukee and LA, other than the Brewers were interested, but they had a history of not making big deals. That was the extent of what I got on the Brewers side of things in that article. It just, I don't know, man. From my perspective, it smells fishy, the way this whole thing played out. And as I've said to my producer, Charlie, and people listening, if this doesn't work, right, if these guys don't work in Detroit, when Harris is out, somebody will talk about what all went down in those negotiations, what the other deals were, what the room was like, and what the conversations were. Now, if it works, we'll never know because nobody's going to say anything because it worked, obviously, at the end of the day. What do you think of River Ryan?
I like River Ryan. I really do. Trust me, I wanted to see Skubal go to Milwaukee. And I think there's 2 schools of thought where if I were in Harris's position, I might just want more players because I have more irons in the fire, especially from the Brewer system. And if 1 or 2 of them pan out, then no one's going to kill me for the return. At the end of the day, rental, but one of the best. That was my thought initially, but I also can see with Harris, like this team, they don't want to rebuild. They want to be right back at it next year. And River Ryan's a guy that can help them do that. I mean, again, because of the age side of things, as a guy that was converted as an infielder and finally full-time started pitching at 23 years old, then underwent Tommy John surgery, which is a 1.5-year detour. That's where you have this weird situation where you have a 28-year-old quote-unquote prospect. We saw him debut in 24 with the Dodgers where he had success. And you look at the pitch mix. I mean, I've got a plus heater on him. I've got a plus slider, maybe better than that. An above average cutter, an above average changeup. He throws a ton of strikes. He's a great athlete. The big question is just going to be, can he handle a starter's workload? Because we haven't seen him do it yet. But I think this is a big league arm without a doubt. And the most important thing here is not how old he's going to be at the end of the years of control. It's the years of control. You got 4 years after this one. Yeah, he's going to be 32 at the end of it. Are we going to see River Ryan just hit the age curve at 31 with minimal miles on his arm? I don't think so. That age curve is flattened anyways, as we have all of the information, resources, plyo balls, all this stuff for pitchers anyways. I think they're going to get a really solid pitcher, at worst of 4. I think they could get a middle rotation arm from River Ryan here for 4 years. And if you get that on top of Zaire Hope and then whatever Brady Smith ends up being, it's a pretty good return. Though, from a prospect capital standpoint, the Brewers could have beat that. I just don't know if that's what Scott Harris wanted if we have a season next year. And I really want to keep saying that we're going to have a season. I just have so many people every time I say next year, the people go, oh, there's not going to be a next year. Well, I got to account for it. I got to assume so. If we have a next year or the year after that, Harris wants to be competing for a playoff spot because they're not even that far off right now.
What are we going to do if there's no damn baseball? What are we going to talk about?
Minor league ball, baby.
Oh my God, that's good. Well, that's fine. Yes, and that's cool. We'll talk about the Timber Rattlers, Biloxi Shuckers, all that. And there's a lot to talk about for the Brewers minor league system, so I'll be good with that. One last one. We asked this earlier briefly, didn't get much into it. How much ground do you think the Cubs and Pirates gained on the Brewers at the trade deadline?
That's a great question. I don't think the Pirates much, because I think you could make the case that the Brewers made similar moves, and they went volume shooting. They needed to build an entire bullpen, and they kind of tried to, and I think they did an okay job of that. I think the Brewers very much added, things that they needed as well. So I think the Cubs are the interesting one because of what the Cubs' strengths already were. There was a more clear, glaring weakness where I think for the Brewers, they needed that guy to get the ball game 2. And I know that they've got other starters I like, but this is already such a good team to me that doesn't have a glaring flaw. That for me, the way to really ascend and push this team higher was kind of that Skubal type of move. But
now that's funny because the fan base in Wisconsin will tell you that everybody missed on what the hole is on this team. That the glaring hole that the Brewers did not address and did not attempt to address was a real bat, a bat that you can help put into this lineup because they look at the Dodgers series last year when they couldn't score any runs and said, we're going to go right through the same thing all over again. And they did not add a bat at the deadline. But there wasn't a lot of bats to add, in fairness.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that I've talked to some people in front offices that were really frustrated this deadline because of just how hard it was to pull off deals because of how few deals there were. And then you even have teams like delusional teams out there, like the Reds and the Royals that should be selling and aren't even selling in this expanded playoff nature that we have. There's already less sellers. Then you mix in the teams that should be sellers being semi-delusional, and there's just not that much out there. So I could understand it to a degree, but that's another one where you look at the lineup, unless it's a well above average big league bat, what is a JJ Bleday going to do for you? What is those types of guys, even a Luis Garcia? I think you're good rolling with your guys and platooning some of the guys that are maybe a little bit more limited. I do think with the Cubs, it's just their offense is so good and the pitching was such a glaring weakness, and they go out and they add a handful of guys. And is it anyone that's going to go toe to toe with Jacob Mizorowski in a possible game 1? No, but they had guys where it's they need to just get innings here. And I think Gausman at least has been there, done that. I think that's huge for them. I think Braxton Garrett's going to be a really underrated addition for them, who the Marlins just kind of punished and left in AAA because he reportedly didn't want to follow the I guess map that they laid out for him to add velo and change his pitch mix. Guy was too good to be in AAA. And they made some other savvy additions to the bullpen that I think can help. But at the end of the day, I still think the Brewers are the best team in this division, and they didn't get worse, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is they still have the guy that can go on the mound and win you any game you want.
Don't forget about didn't they add Clay Holmes too?
Yeah, I mean Clay Holmes is going to be the really interesting
that was a gut punch. Yes,
and that's probably the biggest X factor here. Is that they have Holmes in there as well, which seeing how he comes off of that broken leg, now all of a sudden you go Boyd, Gausman, Holmes, and now all of a sudden you can trust it a little bit more. But I still think there's a gap in these bullpens. I still think, when the Brewers are clicking, they're tough to beat. But now I think this is one of the more fun kind of toe-to-toe races because you can't call the pitching side of things a glaring weakness for the Cubs anymore.
There he is, Aram Leighton. Again, follow him on Just Baseball. They do excellent work over there at JustBB_media. And then follow Aram at Aram Leighton 8, the number 8 at Aram Leighton 8. You will not regret it. You'll love it. He'll be one of your favorite follows. Aram, thanks so much for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Always a blast.
Take care. There he is, Aram Leighton, joining us in the guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that is all. Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily. Steve Sparky Fiber with you. Charlie Usen over there. Habish, and Rotier. National reputation, hometown service. Plead the Fifth Fridays. Did you see that Plead the Fifth was a very, very possible, very popular term yesterday? You did see it?
I think I'm going to stay away from him.
I'm just saying, Aaron Rodgers said plead the fifth like 100 times yesterday on the Pat McAfee show. I was like, man, this is great. Plead the Fifth Friday.
Yeah, but
we could have him
talking about sports a lot. When he was
whatever. He would really take plead the fifth and push it over the top if we got him on the show. Like every week, Aaron can plead the fifth on whatever topic he wants and just let him roll.
Give him a call.
Right?
You got Aaron's number. I don't
just
know if
let him go.
has Aaron's number.
Of course I don't know. Habish and Rotier helping injure Wisconsinites for nearly 100 years. Been doing it since 1930. 13 locations around the state. Wausau, Green Bay, Appleton, Madison, Southeastern Wisconsin. Everywhere you want them to be, they are. That's a great thing. Now, when you get into a horrible car accident, you have bills piling up, medical bills. You're trying to figure out the insurance situation. How are you going to get a different car? Can you afford to get a different car? And it is stressful. I struggle to sleep. I mean, that's probably how I got half my gray hair was going through that. You have to go to somebody that you can trust. These guys' national reputation for winning and all of that, that's great. But the hometown service aspect is really what you need at that point. Somebody that you're going to be able to sit down in their office and be like, that dude gets me, or she understands what I'm going through and can relate and knows what I need and can help me get to what I need out of this. That's what you want. That's what made them so successful and has made them number one. Habish, and Rotier. I'm telling you, you will thank me. Habish.com. Having said that, hopefully you never have to use a lawyer for this. Trust me, it's horrific if you do. You know, because that means you've been hurt. I don't want anybody to get hurt. But if you get into that situation, I'm just giving you a heads up, maybe, of how this all works. That's all. Just planting a little seed in your head. Still to come, we're talking more about the Milwaukee Brewers. It's the Brewers. It's the Pirates. Game 2 tonight. The leadoff show's coming up. Baseball coverage on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network is presented by Xfinity. Score the most reliable Wi-Fi. One price, 5 years. Guaranteed. Xfinity. Imagine that. We'll be doing that from 5 until 6:30 today. Logan Henderson on the mound for the Milwaukee Brewers. In case you missed it, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Brandon Sproat sent down to Nashville like we thought. Stallings also sent down to Nashville. We assumed that was going to happen as well. And added to the roster, Dustin May, the new starting pitcher from the Cardinals. He will start for the Brewers on Thursday against the Pirates. Also, the reliever from the Colorado Rockies added as two. Romero, still recovering from that appendicitis surgery that he had, emergency surgery at the end of July. He'll be probably added here in the next couple of weeks, and then they'll have to make another move at the major league level. We're going to hear from Dustin May coming up in the leadoff show. We're going to hear from Pat Murphy coming up in the leadoff show. We'll play back some of what Matt Arnold said about the trades yesterday during the leadoff show. Jam-packed 90-minute show straight ahead. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. We'll talk to you in just a few minutes. Toodles.